going to introduce our distinguished commencement speaker and also present her Doctorate of Laws, an honorary Doctorate of Laws. Today we honor with an honorary Doctorate of Laws Her Excellency Hilda Heine, President of the Republic of the Marshall Islands. She richly deserves this degree based on her educational publications, her work as an educator, which dates back to 1976, when she began as a classroom teacher, her Pacific Island education advocacy and leadership during her tenure with the Pacific Regional Education Lab, and then now her skyrocketing career as an elected official. Last year, I had the opportunity to be invited to speak in the Marshall Islands by then member of the Hilda Heine, and I turned her down. But she has the graciousness and foresight to go ahead and accept my invitation today. It's my honor and special privilege to introduce to you a distinguished educational leader from our part of the world. It's my honor and special privilege to bring to the stage of the University of Guam the first elected woman president of a Pacific Island country. It is my honor and special privilege to bring before the graduates the first Marshallese woman to earn a doctorate. Made all the more special because we both graduated from the University of Southern California. When someone who has made these kinds of contributions, even as she is a devoted wife and mother of a family, it's made more amazing by some comments she made to 8th graders earlier this year in the Marshalls. That at the end of the day, she still goes home to wash the dishes, cook, and clean house. That when she leaves her office, she reminds herself that she's still a mom and that being a president is just an added responsibility when you're a mom. So I present to you Her Excellency Hilda Heine. So I'll just read briefly from the Doctorate of Laws. With all the honors, rights, and privileges appertaining thereto, in recognition of her exemplary achievements as a Pacific Island educator, distinguished contributions to the advancement of Marshallese and Pacific Island education, for her extraordinary leadership as a member of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and for becoming the first woman chief executive of a Pacific Island nation, and for being a role model for men and women alike to achieve, to advance, and to contribute to the lives of Pacific Island peoples everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, graduates, class of 2016, I present to you Her Excellency Hilda Heine.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Underwood, for this honor and for a kind introduction. Chairman Antoinette Sanford, Board of Regents of Guam, members of the Board of Regents, Dr. Underwood, Lieutenant Governor Tenorio, Speaker Wonpet, Congressman Cordalio, President Mary Okada, distinguished guests, faculty and staff of the University of Guam, graduates, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed for the invitation to speak at your commencement exercise today. I am humbled wanted to hear about climate change, you would have invited an expert to speak on that matter. As I was thinking about what to share with you this afternoon, I wondered, why was I invited to speak at your commencement exercise today? Was it because I am the first woman president of the Marshall Islands? Or was it because I have known Underwood professionally for many years, and he thought he would extend this rare privilege to a colleague? Well, I think the real reason I was invited to speak today is because I happen to be the mother of Kathy General Kitchener, the young lady who was catapulted to the forefront of the international debate on climate change after she spoke at the UN Climate Summit in 2014. I have come to this conclusion because my invitation to speak at UOG comes almost a year after Dr. Underwood had invited my daughter to speak in one of the university's presidential lecture series. Whatever the reason, I'm extremely grateful, so thank you, Dr. Underwood. On that light note, let me quote from a blog from a fellow Micronesian educator, Dr. Teresa Tewa, who writes that, quote, "It's been a matter of embarrassment to many for some time that fewer women are represented in our region's parliaments and legislative assemblies than in Arab countries. The real embarrassment, in my opinion, is because the majority of our country's population profess to be Christian, and many of our people have inexplicably adopted a sense of moral superiority towards Muslims, who they conflated erroneously with Arabs, especially on gender issues, when in fact we collectively have failed to remove the misogynist modes from our own eyes," unquote. Thank you, Guam, for being an exception in the sense that there are more women in Guam represented in public office than in any other countries in the Pacific region. In fact, on an average, only 12% of women are represented in Pacific Island countries, legislature, and parliament. Thank you to the women of Guam, to friends like Judy Wanbag, Speaker Wanbag, and others for your contributions to making sure women's voices are heard in the halls of our respective parliaments and legislatures. Earlier this morning, I returned from Taipei, where I attended the inauguration of Dr. Tsai Ing-wen, ROC's first female president. And ROC happens to be the second country behind Sweden to have the highest number of women in their parliament. In the US, Secretary Clinton is still leading the Democratic ticket. And if the pundits are correct, she will be our party's nominee for President of the United States. The political landscape for women in many parts of the world is changing for the better. Unfortunately, this sort of positive change has been slow to take root in our part of the world. This afternoon, I want to share with you graduates 3 guiding principles which have guided me in my public life. The first is service as leadership. Second is taking risks. And the third is being optimistic. As president, I guess the question I'm asked the most is, how did you become president of the Marshall Islands? What I tell people is that it just kind of happened. I know my answer leaves a lot of people a bit perplexed, because many of us see our politicians as constantly seeking higher public office. But then, I do not consider myself a politician in the true sense of the word. I see myself more as a public servant. I ran for public office because I felt I could make a positive difference in people's lives in my constituency and in the Marshall Islands as a whole. I have also been asked, what do you offer your nation and the Pacific as the first female president? What is your message to other countries that have yet to elect a female head of state? What is your message to the young women who are interested in politics and governance? Actually, I have always considered myself a women leader long before I came into my current role. I was a classroom teacher, a permanent secretary in government, a senator from our atoll, the Marshall Islands, and later the Minister of Education. I was also the president of College of the Marshall Islands. I remain active in our women's non-governmental organization, WoodMe, and I'm a mom and a grandmother too. These are all leadership positions. But I suppose these positions are not always held in high regard because they are traditionally in the domain of women. Being the head of state or government of a country is traditionally reserved for men. So I understand the curiosity and perhaps apprehension surrounding my presidency. Can a woman really do a man's job?